Good morning, kids. I'm Miss Bev, and I'm the Children's Ministry Director at Bellevue Christian Church. And we are a church where ordinary kids are learning to live everyday life like Jesus. So today, kids, we continue our series in construction. And we're going to go over the first couple lessons, and then we have a new one on construction to talk about today. So, who can remember? Let's go over our first couple weeks' lessons. Let's see here. Our very first lesson was about the first thing we need for construction. What was that? It was a building permit, right? And we talked about the Tower of Babel. And remember how the people were building a very tall building, trying to get to God. And they didn't have permission from God to do that. So God, He made their languages all confused and different, and He scattered them everywhere. So that was a building permit. What was our second lesson about? Does anybody remember? Yes, it was about blueprints. Remember, you need a blueprint when you are building a building or working on a road construction site. You need a permit. And our lesson was about Noah. Remember, we talked about Noah. And what did Noah build? Noah built an ark, a great big boat. So of course, God gave him directions. God gave him what would be like blueprints to us to build the ark. Now, last week, we talked about a big piece of equipment that demolishes a building. Does anybody remember what that was? Yes, a wrecking ball. Remember, Miss Bev had a hammer. We talked about a sledgehammer. And then Miss Bev had a picture of a wrecking ball. And remember, we talked about how a wrecking ball demolishes the cement building or the walls, just like we demolish our sins through Jesus. Remember, we talked about sin and how we need to have that sin out of our life. And we talked about Joshua. And remember, Joshua marched around the city of Jericho. Do you remember marching at home with me and blowing your trumpets and shouting really, really loud? And that's what Joshua and his army did. And the walls of Jericho came down. They fell down because Joshua obeyed God, and God had His mighty hand with Joshua and the army. And the walls came down because Joshua believed in God, and God's mighty hand was in control. Just like God's mighty hand should be in control of our lives. Well, today, kids, before we begin, we're going to go over our memory verse first today. So since all we've been talking about is construction and building, this is our memory verse. And it says, if the Lord doesn't build a house, the work of the builders is useless. And that is found in Psalms 127:1. And that's going to go right along with our lesson for today. So we have our building permit, we have our plans, we have our wrecking ball to demolish everything. What do we think comes next? What is next? Once we get everything that we need, what do you think comes next in a construction? Well, let's start off by saying this. When you build a house, you start from the bottom and you work your way up. So you need something strong on the bottom, don't you? Yes, so we are going to be talking about laying a foundation. Have you ever heard the word foundation? Well, that is what your house is built on, or your apartment. It's built on a firm foundation. And construction workers use very strong bricks and cement so that your house and your apartment and your buildings are very firm and they're solid. So I want you to do something with me. I want all of you kids at home to stand up. Everyone stand up. And Miss Bev is going to count to 3. And when I count to 3, I want you to jump up and down, just once or twice, okay? I want you to jump. You ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Did you jump? Now look at your floor. Is your floor still there? How about your ceiling? Is your ceiling still there? Or did it fall in? I hope it didn't fall in. Yes, your floor and your ceiling are still there. Let's try it one more time. On the count of 3, I want you to jump. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Jump. Now look at your floor again. It's still there. Yes, your floor is still there. Your house is still standing. Your apartment, if you live in an apartment building, it's still standing because you have a firm foundation on your house. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Laying a firm, a strong, a solid foundation. Okay? So we have a story that we're going to read today. We're going to read it out of our New Adventure Bible. Okay, this is one we use at church. Remember, Miss Bev always talks about all the different Bibles. If you have a different Bible at home, that's fine. We are going to read out of the Bible today. We're going to be in the New Testament. The last couple of stories have been in the Old Testament. Today is in the New Testament, which is closer to the front, back of the Bible, not the front of the Bible. And it's in the book of Matthew. Now, the story that we're going to read today is what we call a parable. Has anybody ever heard of a parable? Do you know what a parable is? A parable is a story that Jesus told in the Bible. Jesus told stories that were called parables, and what they were earthly stories that we can relate to, but they have a heavenly meaning. Okay, so this story that we're going to read today, it's a very short story. It's a parable, okay? And it's all about having a strong and a solid foundation, okay? So Miss Bev is going to read this for you. It's in the book of Matthew. It's chapter 7, and we're only going to read verses 24 through 27. Listen to what Jesus says about a foundation. So then, everyone who hears my words and puts them into practice is like a wise man. He built his house on the rock. The rain comes down, the water rises, the winds blow and they beat against the house, but it does not fall. It is built on the rock. But everyone who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man. He built his house on sand, and the rain comes down, and the water rises. The winds blow, and they beat against the house, and the house falls with a loud crash. You see, kids, Jesus is telling us in this story that we can either be a wise builder and build our house on a rock, or we can be a foolish builder and we can build our house on the sand. Okay? Jesus is talking about our lives and us as kids and as adults, how we build our lives and our homes. Are our homes built like the wise man that followed Jesus, or the foolish man who maybe doesn't build their life on Jesus and doesn't always make good decisions and good choices? I want to show you a picture. Let's see here. It's in this Bible. Let's see here. This is our picture Bible from church. So I just want you to see this. This is a picture of both of the builders. Do you see both of those houses? This is the house that's built on the sand. And this is the house that's built on the strong rock. See what happens when the wind comes? When things come in our lives that maybe are hard things in life, or sad things, or bad choices, or sometimes we want to gain fame or be popular, or things that may not always please Jesus. This is what happens to our house. It falls, it's not solid. But kids, when you build your life like this man, on the rock, and things come in your life and they're sad, or we have problems or troubles, we have a firm foundation. We have a solid rock, and that rock is Jesus. Jesus needs to be our rock. He needs to be the rock in our lives, and he needs to be the rock in our homes, that we rely on him, kids. We rely on him so that our lives don't fall apart like the sand. See the man with the sand? We want to build our house and our lives on the rock, on Jesus. I have something that I would like to show you today. Let me see here. I got to make a little bit of space for this, so let me move some of my things over here. Okay, I'm going to put it up on here, I think, so that you all can see what Miss Bev has. Let's do just a little bit of like an object lesson, okay? So we're talking about building our houses and building our lives. So Miss Bev has this big container right here of sand. Do you see my sand right there? Which person built their house on the sand? Was it the wise man or was it the foolish man? Say it out loud. Wise man, foolish man. Yes, it was the foolish man. How many of you have been to the beach and you've played in the sand? See how the sand, Miss Bev can push it up. It's very lightweight, isn't it? Well, I have sand here for you in my dish so I don't make too much of a mess. And I have a house. I have a house made out of Legos. My grandchildren, Silas and London, they built me this house made out of Legos because it's solid. See, it's nice and firm. And so we're going to pretend that we are building our house. Here's our door. We're going to build our house on the sand, okay? So Miss Bev's going to just set that up there because that's what the foolish man did, didn't he? He built his house on the sand. And I have some water over here. So I want you to watch real careful. We're going to pretend that my pitcher of water is just like the rain. And the rain came down on this house. And floods came up. And it said the wind blew. And uh-oh, look what's happening to my house. Oh no, my house, what's happening? It's falling over. Do you see how my house is sinking in the sand? It's not very firm, is it? Look, it's tilting. Now, would you like to live in a house that when it rained and the wind came, that it would fall over like my Lego house? That's how the foolish man builds their lives. They don't pay attention to God's rules or God's lives, or they don't spend their lives serving God. They don't make really good choices. And this is what happens when a foolish man builds their house on the sand. But let me show you something else. I'm going to move my sand. Oh, and I have something really heavy. Whoa. Okay. So, what is this? That's a brick. You're right. Oh, this is a pretty heavy brick Miss Bev has. This may be like a brick that maybe your garage is built out of, or a shed that you have in your house. Maybe some of you have these bricks on a patio. Maybe some of you have these in the foundation of your house. So this is a brick, okay? Nice and solid. And I'm going to take my Lego house that Silas and London built for me, and I'm going to be the wise man. I'm going to be the wise man. I'm not going to be the foolish man with the sand. I'm going to be the wise man. And let's see what happens now when the rain comes. Oh, lots of rain. Look at that. What's happening, kids? Anything happening to my house? Look, it's raining. I could even put lots more water on this. It could rain a whole lot. It could storm. It could be windy. And look, what happened to my house? Yes, my house is still standing. It's nice and firm. The foundation is solid. It's a rock. And that's what Jesus is to each one of us. Jesus should be your rock. He should be your foundation. You should build your house and your lives on the rock, which is Jesus. So you see, kids, Jesus told this parable so that we would learn how to live, that we would learn how to live to love Jesus, that we would rely on him, that we would have our lives and our homes be for him and love him. So see, kids, who wants to build their house? Let me slide this back around here. Who wants to build their house on the sand that falls? Does anybody want to build their house or their lives on sand? Who wants to build their house on a solid rock, a firm foundation, which is Jesus? Jesus Christ is our rock. And that's why, kids, we have to lay a foundation in our lives that is solid and it's firm and it stands with Jesus, not with the things of the earth and the worldly things. We want to be firm and trust in Jesus and have him be in control of our lives. Would you like to do that? Would you like to have your lives and your homes be a foundation that's built on Jesus? That's the kind of building Miss Bev wants to have. I want to have a permit, and I want to have building codes and a building plans and design. I want to demolish all that sin that I have in my life because Jesus came and died on the cross to forgive me of my sins, so that my life and my home can be built on Jesus, the solid rock, the solid foundation. Let me move my sand in that away here. So kids, as we end today's lesson, I want to encourage you to do something. If you can see, Emily has been here, my daughter Emily has been here the whole time with me, and she has been making something that I want to encourage each one of you as a family maybe to do this week. So kids, I want you and your parents and your grandparents to go out in your yard, and I want you to find a rock. Okay, now this rock is going to represent Jesus because he's our rock. He's our foundation. Okay, he's a firm foundation. I want you to go out in the yard and I want you to find a rock. Maybe each one of you can find a rock and you can each decorate one. Maybe you can find one big one. If you find a little one you want to decorate and put in your bedroom, that'd be great. If you have a big one for maybe in your garden or maybe on your porch, I want you to paint it and decorate it just like Emily has been doing. And Emily is going to see if she can turn her rock around so that you can see what Emily has done. This is going to go either on our porch or in our yard. So Emily has decorated a rock. And she's put a cross on it to remind us of what Jesus did for us on the cross for our sins. And we're going to put this outside so that every time we see it, we're going to know that we want to build our lives and we want to build our home on a solid rock, a firm foundation, and that is Jesus. Jesus is our foundation, our firm foundation. He's our rock. Didn't Emily do a great job? Everyone clap for Emily at home. Good job, Emily. She's a great artist. So Em's going to keep working on that while we finish up our lesson. Parents, once again, as always, we always have these make it stick papers that Miss Bev sends home to you. And I hope, parents, that besides our rock, I hope you spend some time with your kids painting rocks this week. But I hope, parents, that you will get these make it stick papers out, that you will talk to your kids at home, your grandkids, about building their lives on a firm foundation. On a solid rock that's Jesus. I hope you go over these papers with your kids, ask the questions, talk about the lesson. I hope you are continuing to learn your memory verse so that we always know that our houses and our lives should be built on Jesus. Kids, as always, I just love being with you on Sundays. I hope that you all have a great week. I hope you have fun painting your rocks and putting them in your yard or in your bedrooms so that you are always reminded to let Jesus be your rock. Let him be your firm foundation. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.